It's time for finals. We get to see Mark Manacchia play again against Anthony Lonergan like we just said was going to happen. We're so excited!
Absolutely, and it's a slobber knocker of a matchup over here. I know one player is a whole lot more excited to play the matchup than the other.
This is true. Anthony did confide in both of us before this game that he was not very excited for this matchup, as during Swiss, this was his one loss of the day, pretty much. And I think definitely looking at the matchup, I think things could go either way. I will be interested to see if Anthony dooms his way to a loss mentally in this one, or if he will be able to keep up face for the whole game. Yeah, hey.
He dooms himself to losses as much as he dooms himself to wins.
And that's absolutely true. In this turn 1, we will see 3 potential Pokemon be able to click Trick Room. Now, will all 3 of them click it on this turn?
I hope so.
Wait and see next time on Dragon Ball.
But it is the Indeedee Gallade for Mark, staring down the Incineroar and Porygon 2, and this really is Anthony's best counterplay. It's with this Porygon 2, are you able to reverse the Trick Room on Mark's side and prevent something like, I don't know, this Torkoal, the Hatterene, which will underspeed Anthony's entire team, from just, exploding damage.
Yeah.
Erupting damage, potentially.
Yeah, a very great apt use of terminology. As we see this Terastallization come out on the Porygon 2, and now this Gallade notably starts out as a fighting type. Its Terastallization is to a grass type, will always be weak to these flying type moves, but these attacks are going off into the Indeedee as this knockoff does a ton of damage, knocking off the safety goggles, implying that this Incineroar is pretty attack invested. As the Porygon 2 goes for the Terra Blast, and say it with me now, folks, let's see this Gallade go for I was a little hasty on that one, go for a Sacred Sword! It wasn't a Trick Room! Calling the Trick Room on the Porygon 2 as the Incineroar goes down, meaning that Anthony no longer has a Pokemon on this team that will be able to sit there in front of the potential Hatterene going for Expanding Forces. But that won't matter if Trick Room has not been set up.
Wow, an explosive start to this game. Honestly, 2 more KOs taken that turn 1 than I thought were going to be.
I thought we were going to be in a board state of maybe 1 more taken with the Indeedee, but we saw such an interesting turn being taken there. As this Urshifu is now facing down its cousin, the 2 of them each a fighting type, but one of them significantly weaker to fighting type attacks than Anthony's own Urshifu is. And we'll see an interesting turn here where, knowing that this Urshifu will stay a dark type and this Gallade will stay weak to flying, we have a fairly decent pin ahead of us.
Yeah, and we did see confirmation in that first turn that the Porygon 2 is faster than the opposing Gallade. That, of course, is not always guaranteed. Likely we'll see that Anthony's Urshifu is faster than the opposing Urshifu, just given the fact that Anthony's is likely not going to be trained to be as slow as possible. The option exists here for Anthony to just take 2 KOs with a potential close combat into Mark's Urshifu and Terra Blast into the Gallade, as the Gallade switches out here into a Torkoal. Mark trying to make some kind of defensive play, as well as the Terastallization. It will be a Terra Dark onto this Urshifu.
And this Urshifu won't be able to click Sucker Punch in this situation, knowing that the Psychic Terrain is still up. However, it could be clicked directly into this Porygon 2, as a Surging Strikes comes out into the Gallade, or into the Gallade slot where the Torkoal now is the Sun, completely preventing a ton of that damage that would have come out before.
Yes, not the move that I think either of us expected, but Anthony knowing here at the very least that his Urshifu will not be KO'd by a single hit from the opposing Urshifu. At the very least, the Terra Dark Wicked Blow not able to pick up a KO into an Urshifu that still resists it, as Terra Blast picks up this Torkoal. Additionally, the close combat Evil Choice Band is never a guaranteed 1-hit KO onto an opposing Urshifu, no matter how much defense investment it might have. Now, of course, Anthony, with the Life Orb item on his own Urshifu, had that just been a close combat from the opposing single strike Urshifu into his own, things may get a little bit tricky, but now we're in that same position where Anthony does still have this pressure of just getting 2 KOs potentially on the board.
And we see Anthony sort of struggling to determine what his turn wants to be. If he wants to click this Trick Room, if he wants to click this Terra Blast into the Gallade, completely unsure of how much damage the Terra Blast will do as a whole, or even, I guess, if this close combat will be able to pick up the Urshifu. Now, I would assume a Life Orb Urshifu is able to do enough damage, as we see this Urshifu. And I did not see what the Porygon 2 ended up going for, but it will be interesting to see what it chooses, because that will completely change how the rest of this turn goes. But Mark down to only his last Pokemon, just this single Gallade.
Yep, and it will be the Terra Blast coming out from Porygon 2 into the Gallade. It's +1 on the attack stat. Gallade's a weaker defense, but still not enough to pick up this KO, as Gallade does get Trick Room going. And while Mark is in his preferred dimension, may just be too little too late at this point.
Yeah, absolutely. And hey, maybe both of us casters were not entirely sure of that situation before, where we saw the Surging Strikes go into the Gallade slot. We both questioned that pretty heavily, but based on that Terra Blast damage, potentially the right move, and maybe we shouldn't have been so hasty in our determinations as before. But we will see this Terra Blast go into the Gallade and be able to pick it up afterward, meaning that Anthony does not have to reveal his final Pokemon in the back, though it might be fairly easy to tell which one it would be in this situation, from Mark's perspective. But this will be game 1 going to Anthony Londergan.
Yep, and Anthony once again was not excited about this matchup heading into it. You know, really did not give too much of a fight, in his own words, in their split in Swiss rounds earlier today. But, you know, coming out and making a very strong play in that turn 1, you know, just picking up the KO on the Indeedee. Generally, not always the most advisable thing against a hard Trick Room team, but getting the turn right, getting the call right that the Gallade would not set its own Trick Room, instead taking the knockout on the Incineroar, and just trading KOs. As long as Trick Room isn't up, that is in the favor of the faster team.
Absolutely, and we will be seeing a lot of, I think, those 50-50s in terms of who wants to set up Trick Room. Just constantly throughout this game, we see just the whole aspect of that game is all based around when that Trick Room can go up. And I think seeing that game 1 where there were 3 potential Pokemon that could click Trick Room, and not a single one of them did, just goes to show sort of the importance of it in this matchup. Because clicking one Trick Room at the wrong time can just spell disaster for Anthony.
Oh, absolutely. And I think a little bit surprising that we didn't see a Pokemon like the Hatterene potentially in that first game. You know, a Pokemon that can resist those attacks from the opposing Urshifu, the close combat, takes the Surging Strikes pretty well if the sun is up. But we are just going to see a run back of the same leads from game 1, Indeedee and Gallade staring down the Porygon 2 and Incineroar. Very, very interested to see how this turn 1 differs, and it looks like already Anthony clicked a little bit of a different move here in game number 2.
Yeah, we're seeing a very quick Terastallization still come out from this Porygon 2, so it can resist the Sacred Sword from Gallade if it does indeed decide to go for it. However, I think you can sort of say in the mental math in your head, if Gallade is going for Sacred Sword, it's not going for Trick Room. So should I still Terastallize and go for Trick Room in that situation? But making just a fairly safe play of saying, my Porygon 2 will want to be a flying type at some point, might as well make that happen.
Yeah, and we are going to see then the Porygon 2 Terastallize. Follow Me comes out at once again from Mark's side. I believe the Incineroar just once again, yes, did click the knockoff into the Indeedee, and still doing a lot of damage. Looks like even a little bit more than it did in that first game, and it looks
And
like...
we do see the Trick Room coming out from Gallade as well. Sorry to cut you off. We both were reacting with the same level of a hype in that situation as we see the double Trick Room returning situations back to normal.
Yeah, and it's going to be then speed still in Anthony's favor now with the Indeedee at such low HP. We do know from the damage in game 1 that the Porygon 2 appears like it's not able to pick up the KO on the opposing Gallade. Will once again be a Follow Me coming out from Indeedee, and you have just once again, what is the decision here?
Yeah, and now as we were talking about before, taking out that Indeedee on the first turn when you set up Trick Room, we found ourselves back in that situation where the Indeedee has now been taken out on a potential turn where Trick Room can be set up, as we saw Anthony not choose to go for Trick Room on this turn. So if Mark does indeed call that and decide to go for Trick Room with his own Gallade, could find himself in a very tough position. We'll have to see after this Terra Blast goes what will end up happening. Terra Blast doing just over half to Gallade as Gallade decides to go for the Trick Room, setting up the Trick Room and allowing a free switch in of whatever Pokemon Mark wishes.
Yeah, at this point, it is going to be the Torkoal, and this is where things get a little bit spooky if you're Anthony. You know that your Porygon 2 is going to be slower under Trick Room than Gallade is going to move after the Gallade. You're not able to click any of your priority moves, your Aqua Jets, you know, potential Fake Out if the Incineroar wanted to come back onto the field. So it really does become a very difficult turn here as the Torkoal, you know, yes, the Urshifu resists your fire moves, but a Choice Specs Terrafire boosted Eruption in the sun still is going to be enough to pick up this Urshifu in almost every circumstance.
Yeah, it's absolutely doing a ton, especially given the Surge Move is the life orb item, meaning that it's probably not going to be as defensively invested as some of the Mystic Water or Safety Goggles ones that we've seen going around. So very likely to go down to this Terrafire Eruption. We'll have to see. We'll see at the very beginning of this turn, Torkoal, the slowest Pokemon on the field, going for it immediately as this Terrafire Eruption leaves both Pokemon very low. This Urshifu bulkier than we both expected, but staying alive at the end of this turn as the Porygon 2 goes down to the Psycho Cut from Gallade. We'll have to see what Urshifu decided to click here.
Wow, and really an impressive bid for Urshifu there, surviving that turn, getting the Surging Strikes off into the opposing Torkoal, lowering the damage as it is locked into that Eruption. Very, very heads-up play from Anthony, and I'll take full blame for that one. In my head, I'm thinking, well, I know that a Flame Plate boosted Helping Hand Terrafire Eruption will pick up the Urshifu, but it's a little bit weaker. The Choice Specs makes up for the lack of the Helping Hand in my head calcs, but not having that Flame Plate boost the extra damage, that extra 10% does make such a big difference, and now you're in the position where you're staring down an Ursaluna that isn't under as much threat by this Torkoal locked into a move that is not pitifully weak at this point, but quite weak, and a Gallade that is going to move after the Ursaluna.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll have to see. I mean, in the speed interactions, we would certainly assume that to be the case if this Ursaluna is minimum speed, but there are a lot of Ursalunas on these sort of teams with Tortoise will be running a bit faster, so potentially could outspeed this guy, given the proper situations. Eruption is still doing just over half, but this Earthquake will be coming out. And this Earthquake, despite not having the burn on the Ursaluna, will be doing a sizable amount of damage, is enough to take out both the Gallade and the Torkoal, leaving just a situation where Mark has one Pokemon left against 3 of Anthony's.
And that's a very brave Earthquake coming out from this Ursaluna. I'll say I was not convinced that Earthquake was going to be able to pick up Gallade there without the boost from Guts on this Ursaluna. And there is always the opportunity for Gallade to click Wide Guard. Now, of course, very unlikely that Anthony will click that in that position, or that Mark will click that in that position, just given the amount of pressure that you have to be applying from the Hard Trick Room player. But, a strong play, and now Anthony bringing his Incineroar right back onto the field, staring down the opposing Urshifu, as, it'll all really depend on what this Ursaluna locks into. A Facade, moving first and picking up a clean one-hit knockout. And despite it all, Mr. Doomer comes away with this win. 2-0 in finals here at Balance Patch. Just a really impressive play around the Hard Trick Room threat on Anthony's side.
I mean, both players played that, I think, to the best they sort of could given the situation. There are a lot of sort of hard calls you need to make throughout that entire game, but both players really showing why they were there in finals today. And definitely, a lot of the plays that maybe necessarily we didn't see due to our not as familiarity with what they're running. But definitely both players, I think, showed us some new things about this matchup in terms of that Urshifu being so much bulkier than we expected and being able to sort of take that extra damage from the Torkoal. But what a beautiful match, and we're so, so glad to have been able to watch that.
Absolutely. It's truly an honor every time that we get to be here behind the desk at Balance Patch. Congratulations once again to Anthony Londergan for winning our cup here today. And congratulations to Mark Manakia for the second place finish. A very, very strong showing for both of these trainers. We'll have to see what they put forward here in the future. And we'll catch you next time here from Balance Patch. Oh, I guess we can do an interview.
Yeah, we can do that. Yeah, sorry,
cool.
We're not actually leaving.
Well, hey, I mean, that was a great little sign-off that I just did, right?
Yeah.
Cool, so we can...
Someone cut that.
I was going to say,
Yeah.
in the edit, we're going to cut it there, and then, cool.
I just want to make sure everyone here, know that happened later.
Good.
June's a time traveler, actually. So
thank you.
This will happen later on, but we will be having our winner over here in just a second for a little interview.
Yeah. I think Gerd would cut to a little bit of a bumper here so that we don't just have to sit awkwardly and fill time.
So he's gone. So we're going to...
So I think we're just going to chill here.
We're going to riff.
Yeah, well, okay. So things about Anthony.
Yeah.
Doomer.
Friend.
Phenomenal player.
And he's here. And he's here, too.
And he's here.
Here you go. Anthony Lonergan, everybody. June will be doing this interview. I didn't sign this off with her, but she has to do it anyways.
I kind of assumed. I appreciate the communication. And now we're here
Hi, what's up?
with Massachusetts' own Anthony Lonergan.
Hi.
How are you feeling after pulling out that win against a matchup that we talked pretty heavily about on stream? You are not terribly excited to play.
Yeah, I had to make some calls. Obviously, the calls had to go in my favor. So obviously, from my game against Mark, I think what Swiss round 3. Yeah, Swiss round 3. I was like, okay, Mark usually attacks game 1, and then game 2, if it doesn't work, Mark usually goes into like, oh, I want to play defensively, I want a TR. So I used that to my advantage, and I understood that in game 2, like, TR will be set up game 2. So if I win game 1 by whatever miracle, I would be like, okay, you're going to trick room. Like, I understand that you will trick room here. You're not going to do it with Ndidi. You want to make sure that Gallade is set to go. Obviously, that's what happened. So I was like, okay, as long as I guarantee damage on Ndidi, I can just trick room here and then bring in something like Ursh. And yeah, that was pretty much my cycling game plan, where I was like, if I can just get damage on specifically Torkoal too. I didn't want to KO the Gallade because I wanted a double KO, so I could later outspeed the Dark Urshifu, because it's banned. That thing does a lot of damage.
Sure
and it's
does.
Really scary.
Yeah, it does.
And obviously it's banned, and it's like, yeah, I don't really care about Incin. I could just whoosh, like that, you know?
That's pretty much what the animation looks like, yeah.
Yeah.
Now,
That combat is pretty close.
that's good. That's good. Now, talked us through a little bit about your turn 1 game plan heading into really both of those games, you know, knowing the kinds of plays that Mark is going to make. But just from a broader perspective, why were you so, I don't want to say nervous going into that final matchup, but you made it look pretty easy there, Anthony.
Yes. In Swiss round 3, Mark kind of like curb stomped me, and I was like, oh wow, I didn't really think about the implications of Psy spam hard TR. Obviously Torkoal's a huge issue, and obviously since I do not have a resisting Terra on something like my Amoonguss, I can't put it to sleep. Obviously with like safety goggles and DD, can't put that to sleep. Magic Bounce Hatterene, can't put that to sleep. So I'm kind of like forced to bring Ursh, I feel like, even though it's technically not a good matchup for it. I can still get really important chip with Surging Strikes, especially Life Orb, because like I'm 2-hit KOing the the Torkoal and Sun.
Yeah.
And getting that to where Eruption does not actually KO my Ursaluna is super important. But I kind of realized that when I went on a little stroll. I was strutting around Boston, and I was like, oh yeah, if I just like get Torkoal really low, I can just take a double KO after I Terra Blast Gallade, and then I'm good.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was kind of my mindset. I was nervous because I was like, this isn't like a great matchup. Like, it's not like an auto win. It's like I
yeah.
still have to. I feel personally like it's pretty 60-40 in Mark's favor. Like, because like if I get the calls right, then I win. But Mark has like an inherent advantage, obviously with all of their slower Pokemon. But yeah, I thought about it. I was like, maybe if I think I will win.
Yeah.
And then it worked, and I thought about it.
Yeah, and you talked a little bit about the Urshifu being brought to both of those games. It really showed its value in that second game.
Oh, yeah.
You know, surviving that Choice Specs, Terrify Eruption in the Sun, having both the Urshifu and the Porygon 2 survive those. Can you
Both
tell
my
us?
goats.
I was going to say, did you know that both of those Pokemon would survive? And and how were you planning to get to that point knowing that?
I knew Ursh was gonna survive. My Ursh is like pretty bulky. I didn't exactly like 1-to-1 Kosuki days EUIC spread. The P2 is all vibes. And
Awesome.
P2 is like I've been using P2 for like 8 years now. Maybe going on 9, but like I knew it would survive. Like it's a little bit bulkier than like the spread we were using for like God knows how long. But
yeah.
yeah, it was still like super valuable to have that little extra bulk, while also still doing a lot of damage with like Terra Flying. So now, obviously, if I have like Amoonguss, I can threaten stuff with like Terra Flying Spore, and then just go from there. But Yeah, P2 was mostly vibes.
Yeah.
I understood. I was like, I'm at full health. Like,
Nothing's
I'm-
going to knock out a Porygon 2 from full health.
exactly.
Yeah.
Can I get some snaps in the
Yeah,
back?
absolutely.
Like, it's P2. Like, it's not good. It's not getting KO'd by
No.
anything for full health.
And if there's one player who we know in New England is going to win a tournament with Porygon 2 and put on a show like that,
It might be me.
he's sitting right here next to me.
Don't tell Zach Weed.
Well, of course, I'm not going to tell
Don't
Zach
tell
Weed
him.
that.
He'll be very mad at me.
But
yeah.
any other thoughts, what this win means to you, looking forward to maybe not the rest of this season, but,
I don't think anyone's really looking forward to the
Are-
rest of the season.
yeah. But I guess my big question is, are you back?
No.
Is Anthony back?
As the great Timothy Chalamet once said, all things will be revealed in due time. Not right now, but perchance later. You can't just use perchance in a sentence like that. Perchance. Shout out Family Guy. And
Awesome.
also, my girlfriend Ashley, she's awesome. She's been sick this weekend. I feel so bad. Shout out Ashley.
Shout out, Ashley.
Yeah. This one means like a decent amount. I'm just trying to hit Ace Trainer. Just trying to go from there. I haven't really attended locals, so just kind of hanging out with my friends, grinding life, just doing me, you know?
Awesome.
Yeah.
Then last thing, of course, always, any other shout-outs, anything else you want to say to the folks while you got a captive audience here for you?
Shout out everyone in chat. Thank you for watching. Appreciate all of you watching this wonderful local scene thrive. Also shout out Calvin Tobias, lovely co-caster, who is off to the side asking for a shout out. I think shout out Victory Road VGC for helping me get the team this morning, and also my pal Jared.
Thank you. I was going to say, if Calvin's getting a shout-out,
No, yeah, well, you were included within that. Oh yeah, well I did say Calvin by name. Yeah, exactly.
Perfect. Okay, best for
for
last. I
last,
got you.
exactly.
Yeah, I got you.
Thank you. But yeah, thank you everyone for watching. Maybe I'll be in here next time, because maybe I'll be too washed to hit Ace Trainer.
We'll see. Or maybe you'll have already surpassed it, and you won't need the extra points to hit your Ace Trainer status anymore.
Exactly. I'm just looking for that promo card.
All we need.
Yeah, that's all you need in life.
Awesome. Well, Anthony, thank you again so much for joining us. Congratulations on the big win.
Thank you very much.
Nobody more deserving than you, my friend.
Thank you very much.
And again, for everybody in chat watching, thank you for sticking with us throughout today, and hope you have a great rest of your night.
Bye.